I'm not saying everyone is lying, I'm just saying you shouldn't completely trust them. Have you ever watched a YouTube channel where they get invited to play the new Call of Duty game or an update early? They usually come back from it and make a video either saying what they played was really fun and they're super excited, but then a month or two later, suddenly their opinion has completely flipped and are saying this new game is a disappointment, or that it's the outright worst game that they've ever played. Well, why did your opinion change so much? They played the game before it even released, plus got tons of behind the scenes info on it, so it doesn't really make sense. Actually, it totally makes sense, and it's going to require us talking about the things you never really hear about publicly and no YouTuber wants to admit. How does someone actually get invited to these early access gameplay events, sort of like COD Next last week? Well, Activision has employees whose job it is to talk with content creators across every platform. These employees, based on your content, reputation, audience size, and probably a bunch of other things, will decide if they want to invite you. There has been times where these factors don't seem to have mattered though, and becomes more of about who you know and how well you liked are within the content creator and Activision space and the content that you actually produce. They'll make a list of however many people that they can invite, message everyone, and offer them a flight out to Los Angeles, a hotel usually for 2 nights, and maybe a few food vouchers. All of that in exchange for you posting about the event online. Technically, you're not required to post anything, and there is people who have done that, but it's also a really easy way to never get invited back. But no, Activision does not directly pay anyone to go to these events unless there is a tournament at that time, because in that case content creators would be required to disclose that, and obviously their audience would think their opinion is being paid for. While you're out in Los Angeles, Activision typically gives everyone the chance to tour one of the studios, get some information, ask some questions, and give their feedback about the game, whether that be positive or negative. The next day you'll go somewhere, play the game again, record, talk to the devs, and then at the end of the day, Activision might take the creators out for dinner. This is also why you can't actually trust them. From these early capture events, you are given exclusive access to information and gameplay that almost no one else on the planet has. Some people will go home and make 1, 2, potentially 5 videos or more showcasing this footage and talking about the things they learned from being out in LA. Because it is exclusive and everyone wants to know about the upcoming Call of Duty title, this almost certainly will lead to more views on your videos than normal, more social media followers than normal, and a bump in subscribers. It's a pretty fucking great deal, to be honest with you, and Activision knows this because they know that you trust what your favorite YouTubers have to say. If someone is uncertain about MW3, then they're more likely to buy it if a YouTuber says that it's good, since it's their job to play it and they built up that trust in your head whether you've noticed it or not. Watching someone every single day on YouTube, it actually does build up this psychological trust factor, and Activision is using that to their advantage to try to get you to buy these games. You're not getting their real opinions about these games though. They might not outright be lying to you, some of them definitely will. There is some people who straight up do not care about anything other than views and money. Most people though will try and highlight literally even the smallest things that they enjoyed, or try to hide behind the "it's different but give it a try because I enjoyed it" at the event excuse. If you ever do hear that, it means the game is dog meat, or they're literally fucking scared because it's not going to do well on their channel throughout the year. I will say this though, some people do actually like the games wholeheartedly, and that's why it sucks that not everyone is being totally honest. So obviously we need to talk about why some people aren't totally honest. First of all, whether any of us really like to admit it, YouTube is a business, especially for people who are being invited out to these events. At that size, you are either a full-time content creator currently and need to make enough money to survive, or you are very close to that point. It's always going to be in your best interest to keep a relationship with Activision. Plus, while you're there, you can network with other creators to potentially do collabs and then say positive things about the upcoming game. Because if you say those good things, then that's your best way to get invited back to these events for more years to come, especially because with something like MW3, maybe sure you don't like this game, but let's say you're a zombies YouTuber, you definitely want to be invited back for next year. Plus, it seems like once you're on this list of people who have been invited, then as long as your channel doesn't completely fall off of a cliff and you're not doing anything too crazy on social media, then you're most likely to continue to get invited to at least some events. It's also in your best interest from a monetary standpoint. Think about it, the entire point of YouTube is to try and keep people interested in these games as long as you possibly can, because then you'll make the most amount of money. If a YouTuber went home from these events, said the game sucked, and laid out why they hated it, then their audience might respect them a little bit more for being honest. They're not going to be watching you on launch day though, or for potentially the next couple of weeks after that, because inevitably some of them are going to buy the game and be wanting to watch content on that. So even if you're making content on the older games that you do enjoy, your views will continue to dip more and more. And then if you do try to make videos on the new game, then people will say, well, why are you doing this? You don't even like it. If you go home and hype up the release though, then there's at least a better chance for the first week of launch that views could go up a lot for you. Maybe after that, sure, things will dip if the COD community just isn't enjoying it, but you'll have at least had your views. One other thing no one actually talks about is the fact that while Activision does not pay you to go to the early capture events, it does build up a relationship that could get you paid. This is more specifically for multiplayer YouTubers and Warzone players, but if you stay on Activision's good side, then it might lead you to being invited to Warzone tournaments in the future. Many of these have guaranteed payouts no matter what place you end up in, and sometimes those minimum prizes could be anywhere from a few hundred to a few $1,000s. And as long as you're not completely useless on the sticks, you might be able to sneak up a few places and actually make some decent money. If you're really good, then winning one of these tournaments might actually change your life potentially. For those YouTubers who don't play Warzone, there's also the hashtag COD partner stuff where you do get paid by Activision to watch COD champs on your channel or promote some kind of new event. And for a select group of other people that kind of fall in the middle, there is the creator code system that was basically created to give only a tiny amount of creators who is never going to be expanded upon. They've actually said that before. It's to give them a boost of extra money. And a lot of this does hinge on YouTubers going to these in-person events and then giving good first impressions to stay in the good books of Activision. As I said, you could go out there and say something isn't good if you truly do not like it, but why would you do that? There's literally zero long-term benefit for a YouTuber to be negative before the game has launched. So why also is it that a few months after launch you suddenly see the opinions of some of them shift to saying that this Call of Duty title is bad? Well, it's because it's generally seen as more acceptable to throw some jabs at the newest COD once other people in the community at large have been doing it for a little bit. Basically, it's because they're scared at first, and once they're 100% certain that it's fine, then they're going to come out with their real opinions all along. And let me be super clear about this. I do not blame a single person who does this, to be honest with you. Being a content creator is such a volatile job where one month you could make $5,000 and then the next month you could make $1,000. Plus, who knows how long your career is actually going to last. So you might as well try to make as much money as you can while you can. It's really stressful sometimes, so if you're handed the chance to potentially change your life, then why would you not take that? It also seems to be quite common for these YouTubers to become jaded when they were invited in the past and don't get invited again, and they become overly critical of the games as a result, almost like they're deliberately trying to be spiteful. Then you gradually see them become more positive. And that only happens as they get closer to the launch of a next game that they actually do want to get invited to. So in that case, they're using you and your trust in them to shift these narratives based on whatever agenda that they've got going on for themselves. Even if it doesn't make you rich, then maybe also remember that pretty much every COD YouTuber started out as a fan. Being able to play your favorite game early, fly out to LA, get to play in special events, and tour the studios is something that's probably addictive. You're not going to want to let that go, so if all you need to do is not completely shit on a game for a little while, then that's what you're going to do. I'm also not saying that all of the content creators are willing to lie to you, far from it actually. Some of them do have a lot of integrity, so instead of giving a review, they will make videos giving out as much information as they possibly can without giving a real opinion, in the hopes that they'll be able to come to their own decision and people will buy it if they want to. So if you're someone looking for a totally honest opinion about upcoming Call of Duty updates or the games, where are you actually supposed to look? Well, I'm not really going to recommend a lot of the mainstream gaming news outlets like IGN because, let's be honest, they just don't play Call of Duty very much. I'm also not going to recommend not watching the videos of those YouTubers who do go to the early capture events. They always do have a lot of really good information about the games that never gets tweeted out by the studios or widely circulated. Probably the best thing you can do is treating it like buying a car. Look at a few written reviews from websites that already actually follow the COD franchise, watch videos from the large channels, and watch a few from small channels to form your own opinion. If you kind of end up sitting on the fence, then wait a few hours or a day after launch to decide, because then you'll actually be able to see what the whole game looks like for yourself. It's your money, and make the right decision for you. It's also important to remember that you don't actually have to form an opinion at all until you've actually had the chance to play it. What ultimately matters most is that you form your own opinion of your own enjoyment of the game. Because at the end of the day, why does all of this actually matter? Well, it's because Activision knows how much of an impact the YouTubers can have, not just on the game's launch success, but its long-term reception. That's why they do all of this. They're exploiting the years of trust the YouTubers have built up with their audience. You're more likely to trust someone that you watch every day and buy a game you weren't sure about, as opposed to whatever a lifeless trailer tells you about the game. And everyone that goes to the events is absolutely handpicked because they are typically the more positive about past Call of Duty titles rather than YouTubers who aren't afraid to show their opinions. All of this leads to more sales and more money for the company than there their old ways of marketing were able to. While I said earlier that you're not required to say good things, Activision knows you're more than likely going to give them some positive news out of it. It's so much safer to use YouTubers than it is to spend millions of dollars marketing a trailer on TV or paying celebrities to pretend to give a shit. Everything is about getting you to spend that $70 at the end of the day and then hopefully spending more money on bundles after launch, and they found the cheapest and most effective way to do it. If it did not work, then they would not do it anymore. It's also exploiting the YouTubers too, because it puts them in a position where they are already reliant on Activision to make good games. So if you're invited to an event and then truly think that it is not good, it puts you in a really shit position. Either potentially lose a relationship that could change your career and make you lots of money, or you have to compromise that trust with your audience. Being a COD YouTuber is always a balancing act between turning into someone who constantly complains or someone who's way too positive, and this just makes things much more complicated. As a result, you are caught in the middle of a company who is desperate for your money and YouTubers who are just trying to keep their career alive. And sometimes that anxiety turns into maybe twisting the truth just a little bit, and even that little bit might be the thing that gets you from spending $0 to that 70. There is no in between. Either you did buy it or you don't. Activision is going to make damn sure that they put as much pressure on you psychologically to make sure that you buy that fucking game. Once again, this is no shade towards anyone in particular. I respect people for doing what's best for them and their family, but I also respect you guys enough to inform you of how this whole process works as best as I know. If you take anything away from this video, make your own informed decisions about how best to spend your money. Thank you for watching. A like is definitely appreciated here, and subscribe if you're feeling kind. Go watch this video appearing on the screen about why the zombies community is mad again. Love you, bye bye.